Hello and welcome to this new Beas webinar. Today we will talk about our quality control module inside Beas Manufacturing. I'm Carlos Herrero, Vice President of Beas Group. I'm glad to make this presentation for you today. First of all, it is important to let you know that our quality control module is part of our Beas basic license, which is the most important license in Beas, where we have approximately 80% of the available functionality in our solution. Let's start talking about the different quality control types we provide with Beas. Of course, we do quality control mainly because of material transactions. There you have a material transaction, you can apply quality control. But most of you know that different transactions happens when you create or you manage different documents in SAP Business One. So now we see in these blue boxes then many different transactions or documents where we can apply quality control. Good receive purchase orders, when the production finish, so this is what we call end of production. During the different operations you have in routing, so the different operations to do to produce an item. If there is a sales return, then you can analyze it, of course. When the expiration date comes, then there is a specific function to analyze all the batches, for example, are going to expire, and then you apply a specific quality control. During inventory transfers, manual receipt, so this is, for example, a good issue or standard good receipt. Incoming invoices, there could be, of course, a material transactions if there was not a good receipt purchase order before. Purchase return, incoming credit notes, AR credit memos, delivery to the customer, AR invoice, cancellations, manually quality control because you simply want to apply a quality control manually, and also all transactions. It is a type of quality control you can select for an item, which means when any transaction or document here happen, then a quality control will be applied. It is important, of course, to consider some main parameters to use or to manage quality control in Beas. First of all, we have warehouses definitions. You can consider different type of warehouses in Beas, and depending on that, one or other transaction or quality control in this case will happen. There are some main parameters in the Beas configuration wizard regarding quality control. There are some quality control plans definitions. And of course, there are some definitions at the level of item master data or operation master data. The quality control processes examples we will see today are the following. Purchase process, so when the good receipt PO is created in SAP Business One. Later in a production process, related with an operation, a specific operation, and also at the end of the production, when we finish the production of an item, we will apply quality control to that item. And I will also show you the expiration date management related with quality control. So let's go to SAP Business One and Beas to have a look at these processes examples. Okay, now we are here in SAP Business One, and the first we will take is the warehouse definitions. So let's go to the administration area, setup, inventory, and then warehouses. If I start to search here, then I have general warehouse and some others. And for example, I will have a look at one I created, call it QC warehouse, quality control warehouse. If I click with the right button, then we see some extensions we did in Beas. And the most important one here is the one called extended. If I click there, then you see some additional setting appear related with this quality control warehouse. Of course, when you create a warehouse, you define the code and the description, but then the type is what we need to select here. In this case, this is a type of warehouse called purchase, good receipts, and quality control. But if I click here, then we see some other options. Another one useful in quality control will be blocked warehouse, which you can use when you define a rejected or quarantine warehouse, for example. Of course, some others like allocation, in the case where you need to prepare and make hard reservation for the materials, external warehouses, and some others. If I go to the next one, which is called rejected warehouse, and click again in extended, then in this case, you see the type is blocked warehouse. This is where I will allocate those goods are not working because of the result of the quality control was not, of course, the expected one. If I go now to system initialization, then we can go to the configuration wizard and have a look at the other related settings with quality control. Here we have the configuration wizard, and then you see an area called quality control. Let's click here, and then you see different possibilities or different options here available. The first option we see it is related with the creation of the quality control orders. If I click here, then we see the different options the system considers when it happens. For example, if we only will create a quality control order when a specific quality control warehouse is selected, or with no restriction regarding the warehouse, which means the quality control order will be created no matter of the warehouse where the goods is placed. We can decide how to create the quality control, if it is related with the document, so the transaction itself, or if it is related with the item and batch, or only per batches. Another possibility is to consider a query if more than 200 entries, which means more than 200 samples will be analyzed. Of course, this is time consuming, or many documents will be created. So if you activate this, before the documents are created, the system shows a warning message, and then you can decide if to continue or not. And of course, you can also include a patch with the link to a folder where you can allocate different documents related with quality control. If we go to the next option, which is purchase goods received, and we click here, then a few options appear but are only related with the goods received purchase order from the Beas terminals. We have a specific function to receive the goods from the terminals in the factory or from wireless devices. So this setting only apply in this case. And here you can decide which is the warehouse to make the receipts per default. In this case, the system shows all the warehouses you have in the system. Or only book to quality control warehouse if a quality control plan exists, or always. So no matter if the item is, for example, related with quality control, then the booking will happen in that specific warehouse. Let's see now the production setting regarding quality control. This one here is related with the quality control in operations. So here we define how the system should create the quality control order. Is it manually, so right click with the mouse? Is it at the moment the time receipt is created, or simply doing the login into the related operation in the work order, or when the work order is created? If we see now this view QC inspection plan, change with reason means we need to add a message when a modification is done. Some user-defined fields could also be created, so we simply can say my field here, and then it will be displayed in the inspection plan. Or in the quality control order, we have also some user-defined fields, so for free spaces as well. In the sample, we also have for user-defined fields, and in the measurement position as well. Finally, here we have an area where we define how the date of the batch is included or modified when the release is done. The date of the production, is it the date of the release, or is it no edit, which means simply the date of the original batch? The date of the entry, Is it then the original one, so no modification, or then the date of the release? And the same in the expiration date. This is date of release with item expiration day, or then keep it as originally is defined. Okay, let's see now the main settings at the quality control and inspection plan level. So we'll go here to the production menu. Then we have quality control, where most of the options are included. And then we will go to quality control inspection plan. The quality control inspection plans are the different group of tests we will do to decide if the sample should be released or not. Means if the quality control is good or not that good. We can of course have all the quality control inspection plans we need. We can have one per item group, or more. Let's have a look at one example here. This is S001 standard QC plan. Of course, the description could be any we would like to add. And here in this first screen, then of course the description is defined. Here we can define the sample size. If we set 0, means 1, no matter of the size of the order or the size of the transaction. We will always take only one. But of course here we can define some other options, like from this quantity, how many samples, or how many samples depending on the quantity. Then of course a fixed value, which could be different than simple 1. In sample per minutes, then we can define the size of the sample depending on the time, or the planned time of the operation. This is only related with quality control at the level of the operations. If we set for example 2, and then we have an operation that needs 60 minutes, then the system will understand should take one sample, let's say every 2 minutes, which means at the end 30 samples. The samples related with the serial numbers. Then if the input of the values for the different tests should happen per sample, per test, or both. So we can choose at the time we are executing the quality control order which method to consider. We can include a picture, which is in this case an icon, or colors, and some additional values. If this quality control inspection plan is valid from a specific date to a limited one. If it is not approved, then of course will not be useful. So this is an approved setting. We define here in the different tabs what exactly to measure. So in this case, I have 3 measurements: dimension length, so then a minimum and a maximal size. Then QC test 4 with some percents and pH percent, for example. If we set this as relevant, then of course the final result of the different tests will have influence on the total result of the quality control order. If it is not relevant, so then no matter of the result, for example, of one of those tests, then we will be able to release the sample. If we do double click here, then we can make additional definitions at the level of the measurement, or at the level of the different test, where we also have, for example, attributes, which is this is okay or not okay. So there is not a minimum and maximum value. And then we, as you can see here, we can define those minimal values, maximum, and so on. If I go to attachments, then we can include here pictures related with our quality control, and the people who is executing the quality control can use it, or documents with, for example, instructions and others. Coming back to the master data tab, then we also see we have another tab related with the release. This is rules to release the sample. If we go now to the release tab, then we have additional settings to define the way to release the sample and to release the quality control order. So regarding the sample, then we can say this is automatically, means once all the values are okay, then the sample will be released automatically. manually, but only if all the values are okay. So someone at the end should release it, or always manually, no matter if the results are okay or not. Electronic signature provides an additional validation, means someone with a password is needed to finally release a sample, so a second person. This is based on the four eyes principle. For example, if we go to quality control order, then again, how to release it if it is automatically or manually. Electronic signature as well. If we are able to transfer the items are affected by the quality control order manually or mandatory. And if the quality control order should be closed automatically, of course, if everything it's okay, or manually if okay or error, or without any check, then it could be closed. Here we have another parameter, which is batch status unlock, how the system should manage the batches to be released manually or automatically if everything goes well, or manually but only if the sample and the QC order have been released. Here we also define if the transfer of the item from one warehouse to another one will happen only if the if the item is coming from the QC warehouse, or if it is possible between all the warehouses. And finally, if the transfer release will happen always or only when it has been released. If we go now to the rule tab, then we have some additional possibilities, also including extended scripts. And here in execution as well, we can include some Beas scripts. If we click here in reference, then we can see where this quality control inspection plan is included. So all the production or all the different items and so on. Now let's have a look at the definition at the level of item master data or the operations. If we close here and then we go to inventory, then item structure, then we can search for our item. This is an example of an item where I have included quality control. And if I go to the quality control tab here in item master data, then you see I have a list, well in this case only one line, but I can have all the lines I need, because we can of course apply different quality controls to the same item. It will depend on the transaction or in the related document or in some other factors. If I double click here or click in edit, then the system asks, okay, what is the document or the transaction will create the quality control order automatically. If I click here, then you see all, which means when whatever transaction happened with this item, we would like to create a quality control order, or if this is good receipts, or what if this is at the end of the production, and more. So basically here you can see all the different quality control types I mentioned it in my first slides. Okay, so we define it here, and depending on that, then of course the system will generate the quality control automatically. But what is the content of the quality control? Well, this is, of course, comes from the quality control inspection plans, which we saw before, with the different tests, the sample definitions, and some other rules. But of course, some user-defined fields. You see here the 4 unit-defined fields are here available. We can include some additional description, some specific conditions, and for example, here in rules, we define, well, this is a quality control we would like to apply to one or other partner. Could be a supplier if it makes sense, because this is a good receive purchase order quality control, or when we are producing something or the document is related with one specific customer. It is a quality control or a quality control inspection plan available or active from one specific day to another one, or related with quantity, or only when the transaction happened in one or other warehouse. And if you are using the Beas version and revision control, then of course this will apply, or this quality control inspection plan will be considered depending on the version we are producing or at the end managing. If we go then to one of the operations, for example here, let's say mailing, and then we go to the details of the operation, we can here select the quality control inspection plan. Then you see now again we have the different possibilities here. So I can include, for example, one quality control inspection plan. So basically this is the main setting we should consider. We saw quality control in the configuration wizard. We saw quality control in item master data. We saw quality control in operations, in this case as part of the routing. And of course, we saw previously the warehouse definition, which is what we need to proceed with the process example. So let's close these screens here and then proceed with the example I've prepared today. So let's start with the quality control purchasing. So I have created a purchase order. If we go to the purchase order and open the last document, then we have a purchase order for an item. It's vitamins E. I have included a quality control to this item. Of course, to generate a quality control order at the time we do the goods received purchase order. So let's create this business one document. I will transfer this purchase order to the goods received purchase order. Here we have 200 kilograms and let's make it inside. It is a batch oriented item, so I will click here in this button to generate my batch automatically here. Let's move forward. And then we have the goods on stock. If I close this, of course, we can define exactly to which warehouse should be received or which warehouse should be considered for the reception, and then later on, depending on the quality control process, to transfer that to one or the other. If I go to production menu, and then we go to quality control, we have here the menu with the quality control orders, of course, some other options. If I click here, then the system opens a list of the available quality control orders. Of course, if I click in search, then we have the possibility to search for closed quality control orders with different types, depending on if this is good receipts or some others, and more information. In this case, we have only our quality control order, which is related with the good receipt, and then we see here the information for our quality control order. If I do double click, then we open the quality control order where we see what is the item, what is the inspection plan we will do, what is the item, the quantity, and the system is telling me I have two samples to check. This is in this case because of the quality control sample definition. If I open the quality control inspection plan only to show you, you see sample all it's like gray, and this is because I have defined it well. I will take one sample for every 100 units, kilograms, of course depends on the unit of measure. If I come here back, then I have different options. First, you see in this case my batch looks in red. If I click here, then this is the business one status for this batch is access denied. We will unlock that depending on the quality control results. I have two options to input the values regarding the quality control. It could be input per sample or it could be input per test. If I click in input per sample, then we see, okay, those are the two samples. I can open one by one, and then we see here I need to analyze the pH percent and the humidity percent with maximum and minimum. So I can do it first for the first sample, so both test, and later for the second sample, then I do it for both test. Or if I click in input by test, and it makes sense, especially if the sample size it's big. Normally companies are not doing the test per sample because if you are using some instrument for quality control, then it is not that optimus. So let's analyze the pH for both samples. If I click here, then the system say, okay, the minimum is 0.9 and the maximum is 1.10. So Then I will click here, for example, 1, which is okay. It's in the range, and you see the value is fine. So then this result here is okay. If I go now to the second one, and then I click here, let's say 2, which is out of the range, now you see this is not okay. So this okay is placed here automatically, and then we keep that as not correct, or the value is not inside the range we define it. I will put it now in 1, and then you see this is okay. Now you see all the samples analyzed, or the pH for all the samples we analyzed is okay. If I go to humidity, now I have the same case. I will then do, in this case, the minimum is 2 and the maximum is 3. Let's say this is 3 and this one is 2. So everything looks okay. My test has been correct, and if I and now I'm able to click in release, but I have included, in the case of this quality control, the electronic signature. So the system is asking for the password. In this case, the user is Carlos, so I will say okay, this is mine, and I will click in OK, and it has been finally released. I have other options here based on the result. You see, I don't have open samples. I have 2 OK, no errors, and I'm also able here, if it is needed, to transfer this quantity to one or other warehouse. In some industries, especially in process manufacturing, then it could be the case that depending on the quality, it should be transferred to the warehouse as a different item, like item with quality B, quality C, and so on, because some other processes could be initialized. So we have the possibility to select different items, another batch, and if we are using bin locations, to a specific bin, okay? Or then simply to come here and close the quality control because everything has been correctly defined. And of course, we can release the batch. It could be released automatically or manually only if the quality control is okay. So then now I have it, and this is done. If I refresh my screen, if I open it again, then we don't see that because, of course, the quality control order has been closed. Let's now have a look at the quality control in the case of production, where I will explain 2 different scenarios. One is the scenario at the operation level, and the second one is the scenario when the quality control is used at the end of the process. So let's go to production, let's go to work order, and here I have a work order created. Let me expand this a little. Where part of the process already started. I have a first operation has been completed because there is a time received here. A good issue already happened. And then with the second operation, if I do double click here, we will do a quality control. So let me select here, for example, this quality control for this specific operation. In the setting I have, then we block the possibility to start, for example, with the next operation. In this case will be the assembly next to welding, if the welding results in quality control are not okay. So we will see how the system do that. The setting also for this quality control here is to generate the quality control order automatically when the time received happen. So we can do that, for example, from a terminal in the factory. So let's print our work order to see what is the barcode for our next operation. This is the one we will use, 319.87. So I will simulate I'm using now a terminal in the factory. Then I will do the login as Carlos Herrero, and then you will see, of course, the different options depending on the license you have in each one of the different terminals or wireless devices if you use Beas web app. What I will do now is to create a time received. So I will click here, then the barcode, which we saw I'm simulating, I'm using a barcode reader. And then you see the system say, well, this is this work order in the position 10, the operation is the 20, which is the welding for metal. How much time did you invest? Of course, we have different possibilities to log in and log off to collect the time automatically. In this case, I'm simply generating a time receipt. And let's say I have been working here from 10 to 11, which is 60 minutes, and then I completed 10 pieces. So I will confirm the operation, and then it has been done. Let's have a look at our work order. How does it look like? We can refresh the screen, and then we see, well, the operation has been completed. Good issue happened because one of the material has been related. And if I click here, then you see, of course, the time received from the worker, but also you can see directly here in the operation there is a quality control order opened. If I click, then I can see also what has to be measured or the test at the end we need to do. But let's try to proceed with the next operation. I told you we will block the next operation if the quality control is not completed. We can also create a time receipt directly from here if we don't have a terminal in the factory. So if I click with the right button, then I can create here a time receipt. Let's say this is James Bond, who is also working here in my factory. Then 11 minutes, and then I will say, yeah, complete the operation. And then you see a message is telling you that we cannot move forward because the previous sequence have not an OK in quality control. So let's then make this quality control, which we can open it from here, or if I open again the terminal, then you see the workers are also able to deal with quality control if they have the license for quality control in the terminal. If I click it in quality control, then the system opens the quality control order screen with a list of orders to be executed or to be completed. Of course, if you have a list of several quality control orders, then you can filter in the columns by specific type of quality controls and others. Let's then deal with this one. And in this case, I have only one sample. So I will open then the sample. This is what we need to do. So dimension should be between 1.4 and 1.5. So I will take this. This is okay. QC test. This is 10 and this is right. You see in the case of the sample, we keep a red X if the value is not still here or if it is out of the range. And the last one in this case will be 1, which is also okay. I will update. You see we are also able to select blockage reasons, of course, if it is blocked or if the result was not okay, and then you can predefine your different reasons and more. Now the sample is automatically unlocked depending, of course, on the setting we have for each type. And in this case, I also automated the release and the close of the quality control order once the sample result was good. So I can simply click here in OK, and it's done. If I click again in quality control, now you see this is not anymore available because it's not active. If we refresh here in the quality in the work order, then you see this is completed, and we can also see directly here what has been the result of the quality control test. To deal with the next quality control in production, then I will complete the last operation because it will generate automatically the good receipt for our finished item, and then we will apply quality control at the end of the production. So let's make a time receipt here directly. Let's say this is Carlos again. From 12 to 1 o'clock, and then these 10 pieces. So I will confirm because it's the last operation. Again, then the good receipt happens. So we have here our time receipt, and then the good receipt is created. Depending on the setting, then of course we can send all the materials always when we produce it to a quality control warehouse, and then makes the quality control directly there before we release it to customers. In this case, we have our quality control order. Well, this is the same to measure in this case, but related to the good receipt. I can open it directly from here or from the quality control menu in this side. We can simply do double click here. This opens directly the quality control order if I do double click in the work order. And in this case, well, it's simply to make the input by sample or by test. So I will say this is again 1.4. This is 10. And here in the pH, let's say this is 1 and this is unlocked. And in this case, I will close it here. If I refresh, then you see, well, we have the goods on stock and the quality control for the finished item has been completed with those results. Let's then close here and have a look at the last example I will show you today, which is the one related with the quality control when we have expiration dates. For that, we will see in the quality control menu where we have an option called batches to be verified. When this screen is opened, by default, it is showing us those batches with access denied status or not accessible. But of course, then we have some additional possibilities from here. First of all, we have the possibility to click here in shelf life test, which will provide the possibility to block or to make us access denied or not accessible. All those batches have been expired, but additionally considering sometimes, for example, we know we have some batches will expire during the next 30 days. So we will not only be able to see the batches are already expired, but also plus some days. If I, for example, click here 30 days and I click OK, now the system show me all those batches where the expiration date happened or will happen during the next 30 days. And now we also see some of them as a red light. This is the way we show those who has a type of quality control included in master data or defined in master data, in the item master data, related with the expiration date. So the system is able not only to show that, but also to create automatically a quality control order to check those expired batches. If I click now, for example, in shelf life test, and then I will say, yeah, well, not only 30 days, but then, for example, 100, then we should see some additional batches, because you see here date of permission, the expiration date. Some of them, of course, if there is no expiration date in the batch, then we will consider it is simply expired. But now you see the system is going a little bit more in the future because of those 100 days, and then more batches has been already expired. If I click in any of those batches, then you see the status where we have unlock, access denied, or blocked batches. If I go now to quality control order, then you see the system generates automatically those quality control orders for all those items where the expiration date type of quality control is included in my item master data, and of course the expiration date of the batch is in the range of days we defined with this button. If I go to one of those items, for example this one, agro FP01, and then we go to quality control, then you see I have in this case a quality control for production, but then reaching date of expiration. So this is one of the type of quality controls of course we have. The reason some of the items here or the batches here has not a quality control, it is because the quality control is not defined in master data. If we have batches without a quality control order created, we can also click here to create manually the quality control order. Of course, the item should have defined the type of quality control. And of course, later to execute the quality control, it's simply to open it and then input by sample or by test as we did before. So this is all for today. Thank you for your interest. I hope you found this useful. For more information, please have a look at our website, beasgroup.com.